Hi everyone, welcome to day 16 of Yogamas. Today is our yoga break, and as I'm feeling really tight and sore in my legs from a workout I did a couple of days ago, I've decided that we are going to concentrate on exactly that area of our bodies today. So it's gonna be quads, hamstrings, hips, all of that. Now, come and join me on the mat and let's start in a child's pose. Now I want you to have your knees mat width apart, your toes or heels touching, and then just lean forward for a second. Take a few deep breaths here so we can all come and leave the stress of the day behind and just arrive at the mat. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And one last time. Inhale and exhale. Now today I want you to press into your hands a bit, close your knees, and already tuck your knees, tuck your toes and push back into a downward facing dog. Now, again, this may feel very tight, particularly in your hamstrings, so don't worry about having your heels down, don't worry about having your legs straight. Just come into a version of downward facing dog that feels good for you today. You may want to move around a bit. You may want to press back. And maybe you want to find some stillness here. Now step your your left leg into about the middle of the mat, and on your next inhale, your right leg rises up to the ceiling in a three-legged dog. Let's just stay here for a moment. And when it feels comfortable, you can bend at the knee and open into your hips a bit. If you do, you may want to look under your left armpit and just stretch it out a bit. And if it is in your practice or if you feel like it, you can just come and flip your dog for a moment. Come into wild swing and then come back again. Three-legged dog, and on an exhale, draw your knees forward, step your leg in between your arms and come into a very low lunge, a runner's lunge. Now, you may want to stay here, and depending on how it feels in your body, you may want to put your knee down here. So this intensifies the stretch on the front of your straight leg. Now, if you have the space, you may want to walk your foot out a little bit and maybe stretch forwards. As you can see, I'm not into a full lizard at the moment, it's just more of a half space to stretch my upper body away from my heel, basically. Good. And then when you're ready, come up to kneeling, or half kneeling in this case. And maybe you want to have a little of a back bend. And then push back and come to sit on your heel. in a kind of half split basically. Now, the one thing you want to be aiming for is not necessarily coming down to your foot, but having a straight back and leaning forward a bit. And you want to feel it here in your hamstring, and if you don't, then maybe you need to shift your hips or basically tilt it a little bit from side to side to find the sweet spot. And if you have it, and once you have it, breathe into it. So on the inhale, you grow a little taller, and on the exhale, you fall a little deeper. If you have the flexibility, you can always bind to your foot and hold on here. This in time intensifies the stretch as well. Right, on your next inhale, let's all shift forwards again. And then step back into downward facing dog. Now again, walk it out a bit. And then have your right leg in the middle of the mat. And inhale your left foot up to the sky in a three-legged dog. Again, stay here. You can bend your knees if you feel like it. Open up a little bit. And if you want to, you can come into a wild thing. Find the posture that feels best for you, that you need in your body right now. And then, once you're feeling good, come back into a three-legged dog. Then shift your weight forwards and step in between your hands. Again, we find ourselves into this low lunge or runner's lunge. And we can have our knee floating or put it down. Now it might feel good for you to have a little back bend here, or as we've did before, move your front foot a bit out of the way and grow a little forwards with your upper body. Basically, shift around a bit, play around a bit, and find where you feel it best. Now, there's no real reason to do it exactly like I'm doing it. Basically, I'm doing what feels good at the moment. So, just join me in trying to make yourselves and your hips feel good. And once you have enough, shift back and come into a kind of half split. Again, you may want to lean forwards. You want to focus on pressing your heel down into the ground to really feel the stretch. And then again, try and keep your back as straight as you can. And it's not all about coming down here. Even though, as you can clearly see, this is my better side. I'm way more down here than I've been on the other leg. But that's not necessarily the goal. So if you're here, then that's all right. The main thing is that you are really feeling it in your leg. And if you are, then you're doing it right. Again, once you're ready, on an inhale, shift forwards. And this time we are stepping back into a kneeling position. Now, what I want you to try is a frog or a half frog, depending on what your hips can do. And so basically what I want you to be trying is open your hips up, and sit back, and maybe even lean back or lean down. Now, if you can't do that, and if that's really uncomfortable for you, then a version would be to have one leg, as I've just demonstrated, so in 90 degree, but the other leg, wait, I think you can see it this way, have it here, and the other leg stretched out, and you can come here. That's way less intense on the inside of your hips. But if you can, don't be afraid to play around a bit with this position. If you have to stay up here, then that's just perfectly alright, okay? If you can, come onto your forearms. Maybe you want to actually come down to the floor. And maybe you want to rock around a bit. So maybe shift forwards and backwards, or from side to side. And if it is too much, or if it feels too intense, or if you've just had enough, then come out of it again. Close your knees. And we all come to sit looking forwards. Now, I want you to hold on to one of your heels and push up as if you were doing a camel, but with the difference that you are having one hand up in the sky and the other holding on to your arm heel. This should be a nice stretch here. And if it is, then just come down and do the same thing on the other side. If it doesn't feel nice, then just don't do it. Good. Now from here, let's all come back into a tabletop. And then I want you to step your right leg forwards this time. Come to kneeling. And try and have your back heel come up. And hold on to it. And this should give you a really nice, really intense squat stretch. And by really nice and really intense, I mean really painful at the moment. So if you are feeling it really, really, really strongly, then I am with you. And when you're ready, switch legs and do the same thing on the other side. This may or may not feel completely different than the other side. So for me, this hip flexor is way more open than the other side. So this is a lot more comfortable. Still not really super comfortable, but a lot better. Good. Now, next thing I want you to do is walk your front leg to the opposite side of the mat, and you can guess what's coming. We are going into pigeon pose. I hope you have the flexibility for it. If you don't, then you may want to have your back leg come in a bit so that you are in basically a 90-90 position and lean forward from here. If you can, have your legs stretched out, and depending on how you feel it best, either sit up or come onto your forearms, or you may want to lie down fully. Again, as with any stretch, if you don't feel it, it's perfectly alright to move around a bit in a stretch. So just have these little micro movements, just rolling your hips a little, finding out where it intensifies the stretch. And there usually is a spot where you really feel it, even though you may not have felt it at all just a couple of centimeters ago. Just move into it and see how it feels and see how the stretch changes. Don't be afraid of moving, basically. Now come up onto your hands again and tuck your back toes. Come into a kind of push-up position. Draw in your other leg. And let's repeat the pigeon pose on the other side. Again, your options are to either stay sitting up, be on your forearms, or come lying down fully. You may want to have your hands as a kind of bolster for your forehead. Whatever feels good for you, basically. And again, move around a bit. See what you can find here. And once you're ready, I want you to sit up and swing your back leg around so you have your feet out in front of yourself and come down to lying on your backs for a moment. Now, everyone who knows me knows that I have one absolute favorite stretch, and that's a deep glute stretch. You may know it as a lying or prone figure 4 stretch, but for me it will always be a deep glute stretch. Now for this, you cross your ankle over the other leg so that the ankle is right below your knee. Then draw in the leg and just find the spot where you feel it best. Now it is named deep glute stretch because you should feel it here. So if you don't, you may want to play around with how your straight or bent leg is positioned, how much you draw it in, and even how your hips tilt. Now, if you, for example, for me, I need to turn my leg in a bit and basically rotate my hips to be squared off a bit more to really feel it. So, for me, figure 4 is a little bit more twisted than for most people. Once you're ready, let go of the crossed over foot. Maybe stretch your legs up to the sky a little bit. Maybe draw them in while you're here. And then let's do the deep glute stretch on the other side. So in this case, cross your right leg over your left knee and pull it in. What I have forgotten to mention before, please make sure to hold on to your leg around your upper thigh. So not around your knee like this, because this can only lead to knee pain in the long run. So make sure to grab here. And again, you may want to wriggle around a bit, twist and turn to find where you really, really feel the stretch. And once you feel like you're done with that, I want you to basically have the soles of your feet together and let them come to rest on the floor and have your knees fall outwards so that you end up in a kind of diamond shaped legs position. And if you want to, if you need it, you can have your hands on your thighs. You could probably also, if you have something handy like a water bottle or two, you could have them on the insides of your thigh to help push your knees a little bit wider open. But otherwise just stay here and let's do gravity its work. And if you have the time, I would highly suggest you stay here for a bit. But if you don't, then just stay with me for another 3 breaths. And then make your way up to seated. And thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you're feeling better. I certainly am feeling a lot looser in my legs. And so, yeah, thank you for joining me and I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye.